Yeah, Shifley has been tremendous. Turning our
Oh,
attention to the other thing Huts and I were talking about, it's the Hall of Fame. Do you have a take on the
yeah.
2026 class? Is there anyone you'd like to see get in? With Bergeron as a first timer, does he deserve that sort of distinction as being
Yes.
a first ballot guy?
Yes. Yeah, I go Bergeron all day, all night. He's as close. Like I've always said, Nick Lidstrom was always considered, the perfect defenseman. I think the closest thing we've seen to a perfect forward is probably Patrice Bergeron. There are some guys that just make the game so easy to play. Ask anybody who's ever played with Bergeron, like how easy the game is to play when, he's not going to win the Art Ross, but he's a good offensive player, the best defensive player, maybe the best defensive forward the game has ever seen, and that covers a lot of ground. To me, he's going in right away. Like you look at that Stanley. I was making this point yesterday talking about Chara. There was a time there where you look at possession numbers where the Boston Bruins are having that season that led to the Stanley Cup. Like when Chara and Bergeron were on the ice together, and I do like your idea, by the way, Tyler, about it would have been nice if Chara and Bergeron would have gone in together. And there's one thing that I think of, like there were stretches in that season where the possession numbers were like, it was like 70%. Like when those two were on the ice, nobody else touched the puck. We would watch Bruins games like, oh yeah, Chara's out there, Bergeron's out there. No one else is going to touch the puck. It was tremendous. Let me throw a name out at you. I've been stumping for this guy for a while because there's a couple of places that have historically been underrepresented by the Hockey Hall of Fame. One of them is goaltender. Now, the Hall has gone out of their way most recently, not so much this year, obviously, but to try to correct that. And we are seeing more goaltenders make it to the Hall of Fame recently. So they are very aware that that's an area of the game that is underrepresented in the Hall. So the goalie union's being recognized here, Huts. So you guys are good.
Love
It's on the radar
it.
for the
Love it.
Hall of Fame. It's cool. There's one area, though, that they still fall down, and that is defensive defenseman. That class is led by Rod Langway. I was glad to see Kevin Lowe get in there. But outside of those types of defensive defensemen, it really is a position that doesn't get the call at all. Unless you're putting up points as a D, you're not going to get there. And that's why I know this might be an unpopular take for some people, and it might be a name that people haven't really considered, but hear me out on this. In his era, the best defensive defenseman was surrounded by stars. He was never going to get a high. He was never going to get an accolade because of Forsberg and Sakic and Rob Blake and Patrick Waugh. I think Adam Foote belongs in the Hall of Fame, guys. As far as being just a defensive, that's the thing, in the mold of, and there have been doors that have been opened here for him with Kevin Lowe and Rod Langway. Those are the two obvious ones. How he was able to defend in Colorado's own zone, that opened up space for everybody else to be themselves. And from a goaltending point of view, Carter, you can speak with the most authority on this topic. As a goaltender, when you see that someone like Adam Foote is playing in front of you, how are you feeling about the game that night when you have someone like
100%.
that?
You know what, Jeff, I honestly think back to when I played in St. Louis with a player like Jay Bouwmeester and Alex Pietrangelo and these big, predictable defensemen and guys like that who are willing to block shots. They make the game so much easier for you, and I think it's so important. But so my question back to you would be, does this need to start with us having an award seasonally for the best defenseman? Because this has been an argument, right? We talk about the Norris, and it's always the guy who produces the most points. He might not be the best defensive defenseman, but it is something. Is it maybe something that we need to spotlight more throughout each year so it builds that road toward the Hall of Fame better?
I've always felt, yes, that there needs to be an offensive defenseman and a defensive defenseman. I just think that right now, and you see this with the Selke all the time, but we can get there in a second. It's a position that's hard to measure, right? Like there are some that'll tell you that in his prime, Erik Karlsson was the best defensive defenseman. Why? Because they kept the puck in the offensive zone. And the best way to play defense is keep the puck out of your zone. Like it just stayed in, like blue line holds, offensive pressure, all of it. Like it was staying in there. And then there are others that want the Dan Girardi types where they're going to eat about 10 pucks every night, and the Jay McKees, speaking of old St. Louis Blues, the Jay McKees of the world that are they're playing defense and by laying down in front of pucks. I think it's a difficult conversation to have, because again, we come back to, what is your job as a defenseman? Is it puck goes in, puck goes out? Is it points in the offensive zone? It's a combination of both. And the one guy who's going to accomplish all of this one day, who may have been the best player in the entire Four Nations tournament we just saw, what are we going to do when Jaccob Slavin retires?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Everybody knows he is one of the best defensemen in this era. And it was obvious. Like, one of my favorite things to watch, like next time you're watching the Carolina Hurricanes play, watch guys try to put the puck underneath his stick. It's freaking hilarious. Good luck. You do not get the puck under Jaccob Slavin. It doesn't happen. It's one of the most fun things to watch. And even there's he's really smart with the puck. He's not like offensively gifted, but he's smart. Another one of my favorite things, when Necas was there, watching them go into overtime, Aho, Necas, and Slavin were automatic. I know we all love watching Connor and Leon in the overtime, and that's true. Absolutely, 100%. I'm with everybody. But watching Slavin with Necas and Aho was special. It was as automatic as you're going to get. Again, I'll circle back to my defensive defenseman argument. What are we going to do when Slavin's up? Because we're not going to be able to point to numbers. Just like we're not going to be able to point to numbers with Adam Foote. Ask anybody on that Avalanche team that won cups how much Adam Foote meant to that Stanley Cup team. I know it's not a name that we hear a lot, but I just want to keep that one hot. I still think Adam Foote deserves some love here.
Again, just kind of looking through some of the numbers here, like he only received Norris votes in 2 of his seasons in the NHL. Never finished higher than 10th, but how much differently do we view him? And listen, I'm a victim of it as well. When Hutz and I were debating this earlier, I was like, oh, Marleau, no individual accolades. Oh, Getzlav, no individual accolades. But how much differently do we view Slavin or Foote if it's like, oh, they were a 3-time defensive defenseman of the year?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a way to settle all this. I have a way to solve all this. Hockey has been described as the ultimate team sport. Is it time we do, basketball does this, is it time we put in teams in the hockey?
The whole team.
Individual hockey, it's the biggest team sport in the world. It's the best team sport in the world. Hall of Fame just for individuals, thankfully. Where's the area where we salute the great teams of the world? Either NHL, women's game, pick your league, international.
So I guess it for me would be, say you talk about the Hawks, right? Someone I'm thinking about because of Duncan Keith, and you see Seabrook there, but then it's about that dynasty run. So then, do you get does a guy get in that was there for 1 year and played 40 games, right? I got friends because I was in that organization, right?
Yeah.
Or is it like a group of guys from a dynasty?
So. No, I think it's you pick the 1 year where that team is the most.
The 1 year.
And I'll tell you what, the one guy that I'm thinking of there, and I go back to my defensive defenseman thing. We all love Duncan Keith and Brent Seabrook. Obviously, Brian Campbell, ditto. Ask any goaltender what it's like to have Nick Chalmers in them. When's the last time anyone talked about Nick Chalmerson? But ask any 100%. Goaltender, ask any coach, ask any partner, oh man, this guy's so good. You have no idea. And everyone in Edmonton now knows exactly how much Matthias Ekholm meant to the Nashville Predators, where it's suppressing shots. He is where are you going to see that represented in the Hall of Fame? There is an easy way around it. Throw teams in. It's a team sport.
I like that.
Let's start nominating teams.
The sheet with Jeff Marek coming up at the top of the hour. Greg Wyshynski and Uffe Bowden talking NHL Global Series with Uffe. That'll be a lot of fun. Have a good show, Jeff, and thanks for popping on.
That's going to be a lonely plane ride for the Preds. I'll tell you what. I remember when Tampa and New York were playing in Prague, and Shane O'Brien got scratched. I can't prove it. I wonder if he was traded on the flight, because as he arrived in Tampa, there was a plane waiting to go take him to Vancouver. Anywho, wonder if that happens with the Preds. Who's coming back?
All right, have a good show, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Marek, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.